Tennessee hires from within to replace their offensive coordinator in Joey Halsey. And then they hire from within to replace tight ends coach, which was made vacant, both positions, by Alex Golish, who went to South Florida. They go Alec Ablin. Well, Georgia, Tennessee's nemesis in the SEC East, somewhat kind of sort of did the same thing. They went to Mike Bobo, who had a history at Georgia, but they do go outside the current staff, and they hire Mike Bobo. Your take first, Caleb. I'm not blown away by this hire whatsoever.
Yeah, I am. I was reading Georgia Twitter yesterday, and they seem way more encouraged than, quite honestly, I thought they would be with this hire. I think this hire it's a bad hire, honestly. Georgia fans are looking at what Mike Bobo did, his Mark Richt's fourth, third, and second to last years, 2012, 2013, and 2014. I need to remind Georgia fans that those 3 years are the only successful offensive years Mike Bobo's ever had running any offense at any place ever. He had Todd Gurley those 3 years, which was a transcendently great running back. Agreed. I know Todd Gurley got hurt in 2014, but then Nick Chubb came in. More importantly, though, the most important fact I need to bring up, the SEC East was horrible during that time. I can't stress how bad the East was during that time. The only good defensive coach in the SEC East during that time was Will Muschamp, and Georgia never scored more than 23 points against Florida when Will Muschamp was coaching at Florida and Bobo was offensive coordinator. So I don't know where they think this is that good of a hire. He spent 5 years at Colorado State. That's Colorado State. That's a group of 5 school. If you're an offensive mind at a group of 5 school, that's usually where you're destined to put up like otherworldly numbers. Never had a top 25 offense, had a couple of offenses outside of the top 100. Went to South Carolina to be Will Muschamp's offensive coordinator for a year. Will Muschamp got fired after that year. Was at Auburn, Brian Harson's first year. Had like an offense outside of the top 60. I don't know how you could look at just those 3 years, 2012, 2013, and 2014, and ignore the rest of Mike Bobo's body of work and think this is a good hire. I think Tennessee fans should be very, very happy that Georgia made this hire.
Feels a lot like Saban a few years ago to me, and that is Kirby Smart says, I'll handle the defense, just don't mess it up on offense. In this day and age, I don't know that you can do that. I don't think you can do that. I think you've got to be aggressive offensively, and we see Nick Saban went the Lane Kiffin direction to open up the offense. Now, he's backtracked a little bit with his most recent hire, Tommy Rees from Notre Dame. That's going to be more of a pro-style offense. But I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now, this is a hire that Tennessee fans should be happy with as a whole, and Tennessee fans should like this hire. Listen, Georgia's going to continue to play great defense under Kirby Smart. There's no question about that. But at some point, I believe Tennessee is going to play complementary defense at the very least to its offense. And once that happens, who do you like in this matchup? I like Tennessee trending, not to win every year, but at least to be able to win one of 3, 50%, somewhere in that realm. And with the college football playoff coming up, you don't have to go undefeated anymore to make the college football playoff. But to ultimately beat them, I think Tennessee is in a much better position with Mike Bobo there. You look at what he did throughout his career. He was at Colorado State. Things didn't go well there. He was at South Carolina under Shane Beamer. I'm not exactly sure. He was there with the previous coach, transferred with Shane Beamer. I'm not exactly sure what happened there, but he left after a year to go to Auburn. That's Brian Harson's offense. So you might be an offensive coordinator in name, but that's Brian Harson's offense. I covered them pretty closely for Saturday Down South. I just don't know if you're a Georgia fan and post on the message board if you're watching this video, not now or even later, but explain to me how this is a good hire, because I just don't see it at all.
Yeah, and rather than look at the success he did have, which is minimal, let's look at what he didn't do with some really good talent. I mean, he had, if I'm not mistaken, didn't he have Matthew Stafford and A.J. Green on the same team one year?
Yes.
And I think that would have been 2008 when Georgia started the year ranked number 1. And yeah, I'm looking at it now. He had Matthew Stafford and A.J. Green up for a year, and the offense averaged was outside of the top 25. It was 29th in the nation. Not bad, but if you got Matthew Stafford throwing to A.J. Green, I think you should expect a top 10 offense, shouldn't you? And particularly when Mark Richt himself is actually an offensive guru. That's what Mark Richt was known for. And
Totally agree. Now, let me play the other side for just a second. Please hit that like button if you haven't already. If you're on board, we appreciate it. Good morning, Travis. And go ahead and subscribe if you haven't, because the channel continues to grow and we're having a great time and we're going to bring you more and more content. Mention a couple of great regular guests that are going to be on board with us. But let me play the other side for a second. I'm not saying I believe this, Caleb, but I love playing devil's advocate. I love playing devil's advocate on arguments, and I love going to extremes in arguments. So the devil's advocate side of me says, well, Mike Bobo and now Alabama have pro-style systems. So they are more pro-style than Tennessee. And at some point, Tennessee quarterback prospects and receiver prospects are going to look at the Vols and say to themselves, this is not necessarily a pro-style offense. This is an offense where I can rack up a bunch of yards, be a superstar, and that's all well and good. But at the end of the day, am I learning how to run the 7 routes on a passing tree? Maybe not. So let me make that argument to you. Caleb, Mike Bobo is a great hire, and so is Tommy Rees at Alabama, because they run pro-style offenses that will better prepare those players that go to those schools for the NFL than Tennessee. You say.
I say just because someone runs a pro-style offense doesn't automatically mean they're going to prepare you for the NFL. It depends on how they've evolved their pro-style offense. Tommy Rees, you have a case for. I actually think Tommy Rees could. That's a David Cutcliffe versus Steve Spurrier in the 90s situation. You play for you play for Steve Spurrier, you're going to put up other ungodly numbers. But you play for David Cutcliffe, you're going to be coached on how to play in the NFL. And I think you could make that case with Tommy Rees versus Josh Heupel. I don't think you can make that case with Mike Bobo, because the difference is Tommy Rees coached under Brian Kelly. So he kind of understands he understands the nuances of running a creative offense in college football, and he applies that to his pro style. Similar to what Todd Monken did with Georgia. Todd Monken coached under Mike Gundy. He spent time in the NFL. So Todd Monken had a variety of different backgrounds to understand how the college football game, you have to have a bit of a creative mind. Mike Bobo has never really, let's be honest. Will Muschamp brought Mike Bobo in because Will Muschamp did not want a creative mind on offense. He never really wanted any creativity on offense. And that's why he brought in Mike Bobo. And so I think that's where the problem is. And the other thing I would add is, I don't think it's as crucial to play for the coach that develops you best for the NFL nowadays as it was in the 90s. And the reason I say that is because I think NFL teams have kind of evolved, and NFL offenses have kind of evolved to be able to allow players to maximize what they can do, not try to force them to do something they can't do.
It happens in high school first, and it filters up. It's one of the rare things in sports that filters up. So the offense that you're seeing in the NFL right now with guys running around and Lamar Jackson and those type of offense, those were happening actually in high school 10, 15 years ago. So then it filters up to college. It filters up to the NFL. I'm going to keep playing devil's advocate, though, okay? I had a quarterback coach tell me that he worked with a quarterback's footwork that had worked with Josh Heupel, and he actually improved him as a player, he believed, based off the newfound footwork, that the footwork that is involved in just a one-step read, you're not resetting your feet constantly. Think of Peyton Manning, that he was throwing the ball better because he was resetting his feet. I had a quarterback coach tell me that. Again, devil's advocate.
You're saying a quarterback coach said that he was throwing the ball better after not playing for Josh Heupel?
He was working with a quarterback that played for Josh Heupel, and that he turned him into a better thrower, but they reworked it back because they wanted it to fit their system and just make that one read on the safety that you and I've talked about. That was told to me by a quarterback coach. He said he improved the footwork, but that's not what Josh Heupel liked.
Okay, but if that's the case, you can improve it again. We've Aaron Rodgers, we know this. He played in Jeff Tedford's offense, and Jeff Tedford was kind of like a Josh Heupel, where he runs a system, maximizes his quarterback play. They had to rework Aaron Rodgers. They sent him to a camp, I think, for like 3 years to rework his footwork, and then he turned into a Hall of Fame quarterback. I think that's something you can easily rectify when a player gets to the NFL. I don't think Josh Heupel coaches you to I don't think he coaches you to pick up bad habits that you can't undo with just one all season of training. Patrick Mahomes ran the air raid in college, and Patrick Mahomes, as you know, the air raid is also a quick drop and quick read, and that's it. And Patrick Mahomes doesn't do that anymore in Andy Reid's system. It didn't take it. He needed 1 year. he needed 1 year to sit behind Alex Smith and learn an Andy Reid system, and then he became he's on track right now to maybe become the greatest quarterback of all time. So I think if you can play, you'll develop, and I think that again, I don't buy that really, really, really bad habits are impossible to fix with a little bit of time. And I've seen that with a lot of quarterbacks over the years. I think you may need to sit out a year. I don't think you can, Peyton Manning was developed well enough where you could allow him to struggle his rookie season. I don't think you can do that with every quarterback. I think some need to sit out a year and learn certain fundamentals and techniques. But okay, a year. Is that really a big loss?
No. And I want to be clear too. These aren't bad habits. These are just different habits. I mean,
Right.
These are Tommy Franklin going way back to Nebraska. Frazier, excuse me. He that's what he ran, and he did it great. Was that a great transfer to the NFL? No. But what you said about the NFL changing as well is very pertinent.